Hey y'all, today we're making regular and instant homemade pudding. Okay, so we're going to start by putting all of our pudding mixes together, and y'all know I'm going to make them for y'all in this video too, so make sure you stick around for that. So we are starting off with our first, this is going to be like a cook and serve pudding. So what I'm adding to my bowl is 2 cups of powdered milk. Then you're going to add in 1 cup of just plain white sugar. And I had to play around. I found a lot of recipes for this, but I really had to play around with them to get them to taste good to me and to get them the consistency that I like. So just keep that in mind. If you feel like you need to tweak things a little bit, you absolutely can. And this is the vanilla one. So then we're going to add in 2/3 of a cup of cornstarch, and I am using smaller measuring cups. That's why you're going to see me scoop a couple of times sometimes, but I'm going to tell you what they are. And as usual, the printable links for the regular pudding and the instant puddings will be in the description box for y'all. So 2/3 of a cup of cornstarch, and then I'm going to add about 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then I'm going to use this vanilla bean powder. The only thing in this is vanilla beans. So you don't have to use this, but I'm just trying to make as little, additions, I'm trying to make the least amount of stuff I have to add to it at the end as possible. And this vanilla powder is fantastic. But you don't have to use vanilla powder. You can leave that out and just add a teaspoon of vanilla when you get ready to, when you're cooking it. You can do it either way. The vanilla powder I got off of Amazon. I'll link it down below if anybody is looking for some vanilla bean powder. But anyway, that's what I'm using. So I just wanted to let y'all know that. But it isn't, it's optional. You can add regular vanilla when you're cooking it if you want. So once you get it all whisked up, you're just going to put that into a jar. That is a 32-ounce jar that I'm using. So this makes about 3, maybe a little more than 3 cups of the mix. And the servings are going to be, how much in your jar is going to just depend on how much you cook when you make it. So the next one that we're going to put together is our chocolate cook and serve pudding. And this one is kind of the same, but a little bit different. So we're going to start with 2 cups of powdered milk. And then we're going to add in our 1 cup of plain old white sugar. And you can also use, try sugar alternatives if you want to, or less sugar if you don't like it as sweet. You can play around with these recipes, y'all. That's the best thing about these. And then I'm going to add in 2/3 of a cup of cornstarch. Now, I don't know if arrowroot will work for this because it is kind of a good bit of the cornstarch. And I know they'll swap 1 for 1 in small amounts, but I'm not real sure if this amount will swap. So if you don't use cornstarch, maybe just do the research to see if you can substitute something else. Then I added a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And even though this is chocolate, I'm still going to add just 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla powder to this, just for a little bit of extra flavor. It tastes really good that way. And then you're going to add to this one 1/3 of a cup of unsweetened cocoa. Use whatever kind you like. I prefer the Great Value. I don't like the Dutch processed, but if you like the Dutch processed, the darker cocoa, you can absolutely use it. Use whatever kind you like. So I am sifting this because a lot of times cornstarch, and then the other one I did too, maybe I said this already. Y'all know I never know what I say. But I am sifting it because cocoa is notorious for having lumps in it, and sometimes your cornstarch will have lumps in it too. So that's why I'm just sifting this. You can if you want to. You can take your chances if you want to. It's your pudding. You do whatever you want to with it. So just like with the other, and I don't like, okay, this is weird maybe, but I don't like overly chocolatey pudding. Just personally, I don't want it to be just like, I don't know. I like it to be chocolate, but not just overpoweringly chocolate, even though it's chocolate. I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully it does. So you could also add more cocoa powder to this if you want to. And I am going to add the same amount in a smaller batch of the instant, and you'll see how much darker that is. So that is our cook and serve chocolate and vanilla pudding. So now we're going to put together our instant pudding. So for this one, we're going to put a half of a cup of sugar, just plain old white sugar. Y'all see it going in. Then you're going to add a half a cup of this Easy Gel. This is the instant. I did get this off of Amazon also. I will link it down below for y'all, but you need to make sure that you get the instant for this. Otherwise, it's not going to be an instant pudding, okay? So I wanted to give y'all both in this video because I know a lot of people aren't going to want to go buy the instant, you know, quick gel, or the clear gel. But if you do want it, then you'll have options of whether you want to do the cook and serve or whether you want to do the instant kind. So I added a half a cup of sugar, half a cup of the clear gel. Then you're going to add a third of a cup of cocoa. And we're going to add in here 3/4 of a cup of powdered milk. I'm making these in smaller batches because once I made the other ones and realized that I was going to have 1 billion pounds of pudding mix in my cabinet, I just decided to make a smaller batch of this. But you can absolutely double, triple, quadruple these if you want to. So now I'm going to add in my vanilla powder again. I'm going to do about 1/4 teaspoon this time because it's such a smaller, you know, a much smaller batch. So 1/4 teaspoon is what I added of the vanilla powder. Again, you can just add the vanilla when you get ready to make it if you know, choose to do it that way. And I added 1/4 teaspoon of salt, but I don't know if you saw me do that or not. So anyway, then you're just going to whisk this up and you're going to stick it over in your little jar. Now the jars that I'm using for the instant, because it's such, you know, it's a lot smaller amount. I started out putting it in the 32-ounce jar, but then it only made 2 cups. So I went ahead and put it in a smaller jar. So the jars I end up putting these in are 16-ounce jars. And use whatever jars you have. Clearly, I didn't have any more like mason jars the size that I needed because I gave those all away at Christmas with my gifts that I gave, the homemade gifts. So I just grabbed the jars that I had, so they don't match, but that's okay. But that is our chocolate one. So the vanilla one, sort of the same thing. We're going to do a half a cup of sugar. We're going to add a half of a cup. This is Easy Gel, Clear Gel, Instant, whatever you want to call it, different name brands and things. But you just need to make sure that you use the instant kind, okay? Whatever name brands you want to use will be fine. Then you're going to add in, so half a cup of sugar, half a cup of the clear gel. We're going to add in 3/4 cup of the powdered milk. Obviously we're not adding the cocoa this time. That's what we're leaving out. So the recipe is almost the same, except we're going to add more vanilla and no chocolate, okay? So then I'm going to add in, I started out adding in a 1/2 teaspoon of the vanilla powder, but then as I mixed it, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. But then as I mixed it, I thought, you know, it is vanilla. Can you really have too much vanilla? So I did go back and add another 1/2 teaspoon. So I do have a total of 1 teaspoon of the vanilla in the instant. And that is in the recipe. I did put the whole teaspoon for y'all. So put that in your jar. It's just a little 16-ounce, like a 2-cup jar. Look, it has a Christmas tree. Pretend like y'all don't see that. Like I said, I used what I had, y'all. So now we have, you see all the little vanilla beans in there? So the vanilla, y'all, is not going to be yellow like what you see vanilla pudding in the store because we're not adding artificial stuff to this. Now, if that weirds you out, add something to it for color. Add a couple of drops of yellow food coloring if you feel like you need to, or whatever. All right, so now we're going to cook these. So for the cook and serve, you're going to do the same thing for both of these. You're going to add 1 cup of milk and a 1/2 cup of your mix. Now, I've done this several times. What I would recommend is don't do this on the stove. Do this in a bowl and just do some really hot milk added to it. You could also do boiling water if you want to, because we do have milk powder in there. If you don't get this off of the stove in time, you're going to end up scorching it, and it starts to set up very, very fast. Like you'll be stirring, and then all of a sudden it has set up. So mine is very thick. You'll see it. Well, you may have seen it already in, well, I don't know if that was in the other picture or not, but anyway, you'll see it in a minute. the consistency that this one gets to, because I kind of wasn't paying attention. And I let it cook a little bit longer than I should have. And you'll see. See, it's already setting up so fast. And look, I'm just stirring like I ain't got nothing to do. I think I was looking at something on my phone or reading. I don't know. I spaced for a second. But you want it to just start to thicken up. You'll see when I do the chocolate one. Then once you get it to start thickening up, you're going to just pour that into a bowl or some sort of container. If you have one with a lid, you can use that. But make sure that you put a little piece of plastic, like plastic wrap, kind of sit it down on top of the pudding, because we're going to need to put this in the refrigerator to cool. And if you don't put something right on top of the pudding, then it's going to get a skin on it. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? It's going to end up developing a thick skin. So just make sure that you put a little bit of plastic wrap right on the surface of your pudding. Put that in the refrigerator and just let it sit in there for, 30 minutes or an hour till it completely cools down. And then it's ready to eat. So for the chocolate, we're going to do the same thing. You're going to pour in 1 cup of milk. Or again, if you don't want to do this on the stove, like I said, you're taking a chance if you do it on the stove like I did. But you can just add either hot milk or boiling water to it in a bowl and just whisk the fire out of it until it thickens up. But obviously I'm doing it on the stove. And if you're paying attention, it's fine to do it this way. So just mix it up. Make sure you get your pudding mix mixed in there really, really good. And then as soon as you see it starting to thicken up at all, take it off the heat. Take it off the heat. I did catch it. I catched it. I caught it better with this second one than I did with the vanilla, because I did it to the vanilla, so I made sure I was paying extra attention when I cooked my chocolate. Y'all know how it is. You get in there and you space out sometimes. Or maybe it's just me. I don't know. But anyway, as soon as my chocolate started to thicken, I went ahead and pulled it off the stove. Now, I will tell y'all, all of these are equally delicious. So it's just a matter if you want the instant kind and spending a little bit more money to get the instant clear gel, or if you want to just do the quote unquote cook and serve, because that's all it is. It's very fast to do and you don't necessarily have to even put it on the stove. Either way, it's delicious, y'all, I promise. So again, you're going to pour this into a bowl or some sort of a container, put some plastic wrap right on the surface of your pudding, and then stick it in the refrigerator until it cools all the way down. And you've got some delicious chocolate pudding. It's really good too, y'all. I'm just telling you, it's really good. So hopefully y'all will love this pudding as much as I did. So now we're going to put together the instant pudding. And so what I did for these is you're going to add equal parts of the mix and your milk. So we're using cold milk because this is the instant, so we don't need hot milk or hot water for this. So you're just going to take a half a cup, and y'all, I did not trust myself to pour it because y'all know I spill everything. So I'm just very gently scooping it into my measuring cup. So a half of a cup of your chocolate pudding mix, and then you're going to add a half a cup of whatever kind of milk you want. Now, I did read a lot of recipes that said you are able to use like almond milk and stuff in this instant pudding. I did not try it, so I'm not sure if it works or not, but I do drink almond milk, so I will be trying it at some point, but I did not try it for this video. But if y'all do try it and it works, let me know. So I just started out whisking this with my little tiny whisk just because my bowl was so small. And then I ended up getting my little frother out just to make sure it was good and mixed up and there was nothing on the bottom. Now this one, you'll notice maybe in the picture at the end, it looks like it's grainy, but it's not. I don't know if that's just the texture. I've never worked with the clear gel before. This was actually the first time I had ever used it. But the texture is actually very smooth. It just looks kind of grainy. But anyway, once you get that mixed up, pop it in the refrigerator for 5 or 10 minutes and it's good to go. So now we're going to make the vanilla. We're going to do it the same exact way that we did the chocolate. You're going to pour a half of a cup, or in my case, you're going to scoop with your little spoon. Make extra dishes because we don't have anything better to do than wash extra dishes that we use making instant pudding. But I just scooped it into my measuring cup. So we got about a half a cup of the instant pudding. And again, if you wanted to make a whole cup, then use a whole cup of each. You know, however much you want to do. If you just want a little taste of it, use a 1/4 cup. However much you want to do, it'll be just fine. So 1/2 cup of the pudding mix, 1/2 cup of milk, and I was using 2%. But like I said, I do hear that you can use other kinds, but I haven't tried it yet. So I whisked it up. Then I got my trusty little frother out, froth that on up, and then I just popped that in the refrigerator for about 5 to 10 minutes. These I didn't cover with plastic wrap only because they were only in the refrigerator for a very short amount of time. So, and they were fine. They didn't get any kind of like film on top, any kind of skin on top. But that is it. So this one is our instant vanilla pudding. That's our instant. Like I said, if you wanted this to have a little color to it, you can definitely add like some food coloring or something if you feel like you need to. But see, this looks like it has texture and it's grainy. I promise it's not. You don't even know that. I mean, it tastes just as smooth as everything else. And then this is our vanilla that we cooked on the stove that I cooked too long. But you know, life happens. I'm leaving it in the video. But it was still delicious. It was just a little bit thick. And then this is the chocolate pudding that came out perfect in the cook and serve. So that is all that I have for y'all today. And I will catch y'all on the next one. Bye, y'all.